So I just had a dope conversation with one of my friends and fellow photographers, Dami Photography. You can follow him at this handle. Um, we just had a dope conversation about some stuff, and he just said something that really struck a nerve. He said, quote unquote, yeah, sometimes we get lost in autofocus and creating nice depth of field that we forget what it truly means to shoot still photography. And I thought about it, and that's absolutely facts. That's absolutely the truth. There's been plenty of times, myself included, and just in this craft in general, that we get so tied up with the latest and greatest gear, the latest systems, the latest lenses, the most expensive this, the most expensive that. And we get consumed by these things, thinking that all of these superficial things is going to create the photo that we want, or is going to create a good photo, or is even going to create a good photographer. And that's all false. What creates a great photograph is everything you have locked up and stored up in your mind. 90% of the final image is the photographer's mind, 10% is the actual camera. So I have three photos here, and I'm going to show you right now. I have three photos here, and they were all taken by different camera systems. So three different photos, three different camera systems. And if I were to sit here and ask you, hey, can you pick out which photo went with which went with which super tongue twister went with which camera? There's no way you can be able to pick that out. Like, nobody will be able to just do that. I don't even think the manufacturers of these camera companies themselves will just be able to look at these photos and say, yeah, that photo's a Nikon camera. That photo's a Canon camera. That photo's a this or that. There's no way. So take a look at these photos and just see if you can guess which camera I used to take each of these photos. I guarantee, you'll probably have a lucky guess, what are the odds. But more than likely, you probably just don't know. There's no way to know that. And what I'm getting at is that all doesn't matter at the end of the day. That meaning the camera that you're using does not matter, because as you can see, each of these photos are well exposed, composed. The usage of the exposure triangle is there. Compositionally, it's there. Creative taste. That all boils down to the photographer, but that's there in my eyes, right? So these are all the things that matter in a photograph. Not the latest and greatest this and the superficial that. You know, um, and just trying to chase after this false narrative that you need gear to make a great photo. Prime example. So let's go ahead and look at some of these images one by one. And I'm going to tell you which camera system I used to take these certain photos. So this image here is an image of my one of my good friends, Tish. She's a model here locally in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I used the trusty D700 for that. And this is an older camera, man. This is a 12 megapixel camera. 12 megapixel. Super old camera system. It doesn't even do video, just straight up still photography. Full frame. Um, and this camera, believe it or not, was released in 2008. That just tells you how long ago or how old this camera body really is. And I recently took that photo. And as you can see, well exposed, compositionally, it's there. Lighting is there. Everything is, for the most part, pretty good with this photograph. Could I have done better? Of course. There's always room for improvement. But I'm not using the latest gear. I'm not using the D5 or I'm not using the Nikon Z6, Z7 thinking that that's what's going to make this image. Because you can still not know about photography, use a brand new system, and still shoot a bad photo. That's just a fact. Let's move on to the next picture. So this next picture is a picture that I took. Is a picture that I recently took. It was a fashion event. I forget the model's name. My apologies. But this photo was taken on a Sony A7. This is the original Sony A7 body, the first ever Sony A7 to come out. And I got this for I think about $500 or $600. You could get them now for like $500. And that also came out in 2013-ish time frame. So rather old operating system, rather old software and firmware and the whole 9 yards. So it's not a lot going on with this camera. Again, it all boils down to the photographer, right? Gear does not matter. We are so caught up in this whole, oh man, depth of field, and the only way I can get depth of field is with having a f1.4 lens, and that's all false. That's all false. And in a couple of photos after this, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean in terms of aperture with what I was just saying. This next picture, this was taken in Brooklyn, New York at Afropunk 2018. And this was taken, believe it or not, with this bad boy right here. This is a Pentax K1000 film. This is not a digital camera. This is a film body. Take this, load it up, take your film, load it up into the camera, attach whatever lens you want, and bam, fully mechanical, fully manual. So you actually have to know ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. You have to know these things, because that's what makes the photo. It's not the camera. Again, so, well exposed, blown out background, so you got the depth of field going. And really in each of these photos, to be honest, just basic fundamentals of photography is being applied in each one of these photos. This Pentax K1000 was released in 1976. 1976. So, and I shot this photo with colored film in last year, actually, early last year. So that just lets you know. Now, looking at that photo, there's no way you can tell what camera it was shot with. Because it's just, it all boils down to settings, and it all boils down to your ability as a photographer, right? This last photo I want to show you is not my photo. This is not my work. It's work from a photographer named Robbie Medler. And I appreciate you, Robbie, for allowing me to use this photo in my video here. I asked you a couple of months ago or something like that if I can use it, and you gave me the go-ahead, so I appreciate you on that. But I wanted to use this photo specifically because it's a great teaching point for what I was talking about earlier with the whole aperture situation. People are always saying, man, I need the 1.4 or the 1.8 or the 2.8. I need these wide open apertures to get a blurred background in that bokeh. I need to chase the bokeh or the bokeh or the whatever you're calling it, right? I need that blurred out black background. I need that image separation from the back, and so forth and so on. This image, I asked Robbie, I asked her what was the metadata on this photo, and believe it or not, it's f13. This was shot at f13. And you can see a little screenshot from our little conversation on Facebook. She said, "Yep, F-13. I'm sure I was working on getting two birds in focus. They were very close to me, about 10 to 11 feet away, and the background is 30 to 40 feet away." So that goes to show you just need to apply fundamentals in photography to get what you want. More than likely you'll be able to come out with a shot just like this with that blown out background. It's all about fundamentals like that. She got in close, and or her subject was close to her, and the background from the distance from the subject to the background was pretty far away. So that's going to create that shallow depth of field regardless of the aperture that you're at. So don't get caught up with this fast aperture 1.4, 1.8, 2.8, probably even 3. Don't get caught up with that. Apply the fundamentals. If you're shooting at aperture, say 5.6, get in close. And if you and I know I can see the reason why she would have shot at F-13, just like she stated in this comment. She wanted to make sure that those birds were well in focus, because I don't think that's a hummingbird, but regardless of whatever bird it is, they're moving pretty fast. So had she been at f1.4 or 2.8 in those wide open apertures, she probably would have missed focus. Now, there's no telling whether she was using autofocus or manual focus on this, but regardless, if you're shooting something so quick like that, these animals are just moving so sporadically. You can never really lock onto the focus. So I can see why she would have took it to F-13, so that way she can make sure they were in focus, and all she had to do was just dial in that focus ring if she was using manual focus to where they were relatively, and then bam, took the shot, composed it well. Great photo, Robbie. But yeah, just apply the fundamentals, man. Let's stay away from this whole I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. No, what you need is a camera, a lens. If you're shooting film, you need some film. If you're shooting digital, you need a memory card, a camera body, and a lens. It doesn't matter what camera it is. Go out and shoot. Go shoot. Just shoot. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, give me a thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, just give me some feedback. Appreciate it. Thanks.